competing at a combined weight of 405 pounds. They are the reigning, defending, undisputed Racing Dudes Triple Crown champions of the world, the Magic Mike Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Magic Mike Show. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
The Magic Mike Show 440, Mr. Somich.
Super Bowl huzzah!
There it is. I almost said it, and I was like, that's not my line. That's your line, and that's fantastic. We're happy to have everybody here. It's Thursday before the Super Bowl. If you are interested, we will be definitely talking about that at the end of the show here. But, Mike, welcome back. Good to see you in your new surroundings there.
Yeah, excited to be settled in here. Hopefully we'll have the same house for more than a 3-month stretch, which has been an oddity in my life the last year or so. If you took the over on 3.5 houses when I was 39 years old, you would have hit it, and it would have paid a big number. So looking forward to being settled here. Fun driving across the country. Got to stop at a bunch of poker rooms along the way. It was a very profitable trip across the country, which was kind of nice. And now looking forward to getting into it here. We got a huge weekend. We've got stakes races all over the place. We're going to have a live show on Saturday. We got the Super Bowl on Sunday. It couldn't be happier to be back on West Coast time now for these sporting events too. It is phenomenal that everything ends before you go to sleep.
Yeah, it's nice. You wake up and it's on Sundays in the NFL season. It's like it's some breakfast, some mimosas, and the NFL starts at 10 a.m. It's wonderful. You just got to make sure you didn't have too much Casamigos. Don't have too much Casamigos the night before, otherwise you won't make it. We're happy to have everybody here. Tampa Bay Downs, the first of possibly 2 times all year. We'll go to Tampa Bay. We'll see what Tampa Bay Derby weekend is like. Maybe something, maybe a different track will be where we go. But hey, we are going to be covering. It's the Sam F. Davis Stakes for the Kentucky Derby, the Suncoast Stakes for the Oaks. This has a chance to pay like $30-$40, Mike, if it goes all chalk.
I would just like it to be known that I did not pick this sequence. This was a Magic decision. He picked this Tampa Bay sequence. I'm getting a little kooky in my ticket because you got to try and beat at least 1 or 2 of these favorites if you want to try and make this thing pay. So you got to look at it as who's going to be the most overbet horse in the sequence or horses in the sequence, try and get around them. Definitely taking some swings here, but I think they're pretty logical swings as long as the race shape pans out the right way. So could pay a lot of money, could pay $30. So I would not go crazy on this sequence.
Yeah, last weekend at Gulfstream, it went pretty much chalk throughout, either first or second choice for all 5 races, I think. And yeah, that ended up paying, I had an $81 ticket, and it would have paid $97, I think, something like that. Very low. So doesn't usually happen. Listen, we picked this sequence because this is what's going to get the most attention. If we picked the one that we thought we were most likely to win, it would be Sam Houston, and it's a track that nobody can even actually bet on right now still, unfortunately.
Yeah, I haven't heard on the update there. I'm looking forward to seeing when they actually announce that we can start betting races there. It'll be nice. And when they switch those post times to a later time now, especially being out here on the West Coast, I mean, this is like peak time to be betting horses. You just have a couple cocktails, get a little Sam Houston late pick 4, and I'm looking forward to it. We need it back. We need it back in our lives.
We're probably going to need a couple of cocktails to handicap this Tampa Bay Downs card. If you don't follow Tampa Bay regularly, hell, even if you do, usually need a couple of stiff drinks to handle this. But let's give it a shot, Mike. The Tampa Bay Downs late pick 5 on Saturday. Rise up. All right, Mike, here we go. The first leg of the late pick 5 at Tampa Bay Downs Saturday, February 11th, race 7, the Minaret Stakes for 9 older fillies and mares going 6 furlongs on the dirt. I went 3 deep. You went 2 deep, and it's both horses that I used. Who do you want to talk about first?
Well, I want to respond to some chat comments first. So I'm just going to do that and take us off the rails a little bit here.
Sure, here we
Dr.
go.
Pang, this is a polo. I know you're a doctor. You don't
said
wear
that
polos
this morning,
a lot.
too.
But real quick, that's a polo. Just want you to know that. Trish, the contest schedule has not changed anything there. So that is all still there, as is the Lone Star contest later this year. Pretty excited about that. Slim, first off, man, I've been thinking about you all weekend because of your Nets. It's been a wild trade deadline for you guys. Hope you like the moves. I'm glad you got rid of both of them. We'll see what can happen there. And we will talk quite a bit about the prices in the Suncoast. I think that's going to be one of the hotter topics of debate. So we're going to have to leave you hanging here. Now, top pick here. Look, I love Caramel Swirl. I really do. She's awesome. She's 7-5 though. We're going to talk about prices a lot in the sequence as well, because it's tough to get around some of these horses. I am putting Karma Swirl the 5 on top. I think she makes the most sense in this spot. She's done nothing wrong, really. My biggest knock on her, the biggest question mark for me, and Magic, I'd love your take on this. How often do you see a horse who's 7-5 in a 6 furlong stakes race, who's run 11 times in her career and never gone 6 furlongs? She likes to run second too. Like, if you're gonna knock Karma Swirl here, I think it's all about the distance and the goal. We talk about it a lot. Karma Swirl in a 50K stakes race, going a distance she doesn't always run, is not the end goal for this horse. Mott wants to get her moving forward into the year. So if you want to take a shot against her, today is probably one of the better days to do so.
I almost left her off my ticket. I respect the hell out of her back class and her ability, and you would think that a lot of those efforts where she ran second would be good enough to win. But you're right. The big concern is 6 furlongs. She's never gone that short before. So it is concerning. She does have that kick, but is that kick better when she's beating horses at 7 furlongs, when that's a tricky distance for a lot of horses to try and handle? She's a 7 furlong specialist. 6 might not be really good enough for her. But I mean, the fact that she was second to Goodnight Olive, that, did get the win at Keeneland back in October. She runs well off of a long layoff, which is good. We haven't seen her since August. So I used her, respect the hell out of the connections, but you're right. If somebody want to take a shot against a favorite, I think this is the one you target first.
I'll disagree with that comment. We'll get into that later. But I do think this is one where if you want to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going too deep with a horse that I think is kind of on the come up here that makes the most sense. If Karma Swirl gets beat, you logically have to think it's a horse that's on the front end, right? That someone kind of gets her shakes loose, is able to get up front, and she can't run that horse down late. I don't see anyone out kicking her from the back of the pack. So because of that, I went to the inside here with Drafaros on the rail. This is a really lightly raced 4-year-old. She is a daughter of Kintheros. I like that last race in the Gulfstream Park, at Gulfstream Park, 62K optional claimer. Look, that purse was probably bigger than this $50,000 allowance purse. So it's not like this is a huge step up in class when you're looking from an optional claimer optional claimer allowance race up into a stakes race, because this purse is only 50K. That was most likely in the 60s, maybe even low 70s, because of kind of the level that we were sitting at there. And of all the horses that have speed, I think she's got the most upside on the rail. She's got to go, which I think is a positive here. And she has improved every single start of her career. Now we're getting second off the layoff, second in a 4-year-old season, logical improvement angle there. I'm hoping it's all systems go. She's able to just get to the lead and run them off their feet here going 6 furlongs. And if not, Karma Swirl is the one I think picks it up. So just 1-5 for me. Take a little bit of a shot with the 6-1 horse.
Well, and the off chance that we talked about on Dudes Who Bet Daily this morning, that, especially with me, if I try to pick a speed horse to be a speed horse, they don't speed horse. So on the off chance that doesn't happen for Drafaros here, she proved 2 back. She can sit off of it a little bit. They went really fast at Monmouth, 21-3, 44.5, but she sat right off of it, pounced, and that ended up being the fastest of those 6 furlong races that she's ever run. So I'm with you, second off the layoff, all good angles here. I did use Karma Swirl as well. Like I said, I really respect the back class. The other one for me, and I think actually might be the other speed horse in here, might be the one that beats Drafaros to the lead. That's the 8 Olivia Darling for Jorge Delgado. Horses with Grand Motion up until the end of last year. 1 win, barely really any showings. Moves over to Jorge Delgado, 6 furlong optional claimer. Boom, we win with the career best buyer. We move up to the N2X at Tampa, 6 furlong. Boom, career best buyer. Both times running on the front end. That last time Jaramillo was in the saddle. She was on the inside that day. She is outside in this position. That she was inside for her other race as well, that she won for Delgado. But Delgado was 23 for 57 at the meet. He's 40%. When I see that and the horse is 5-1 and could steal this on the front end possibly, I'm like, I've got to use the horse. But I understand if 5-1 if that was too low of a price for you.
I just have some questions about whether or not she can get the lead, and if she can't, I think she's in a world of hurt. I don't see her being able to sit off it and be able to win. All of her wins have come up front. She did break her maiden coming from 3rd, but then was in the lead the rest of the race. So really just kind of in a duel, made the lead and never gave it up. Those buyer jumps are wild. And I mentioned how, the one horse is kind of coming out of a similar race. You could even say it's a little bit of a drop in class if Karma Swirl didn't show up in here. Olivia Darling's the other side of that, right? 25K optional, 32K optional. So we are stepping up here, and it's a pretty sizable step up for a horse who wants the front end. That's what really kept me off Olivia Darling more than anything else. Although, if for some reason she's able to get loose, she becomes a lot tougher The 2 I thought was a little interesting because My Destiny has at least been able to sit off and win. You're getting 5-1 on the 2, has a ton of speed. Gaffleon picking up the mount. So if I was going to go with third horse here, I would use My Destiny versus Olivia Darling. But it's tough for me wanting to go 3 deep here if I'm using Carmel Swirl just because of the price. So it was one of those races where I didn't love any of the big bombs. I didn't like anyone that was like, 10, 15, 20 to 1. So I tried to keep it pretty lean here.
And the 2 I was just going to ask you about, so I'm glad you brought it up. This is the one I was debating. Do I leave Carmel Swirl off? No, that's crazy. But if I had, this is who I was going to punch up. You like the improvement, 4 straight wins, everything that you mentioned. T-Gaff getting aboard, doesn't ride for Herman Walensky very often. That's got to be a good sign as well, possibly. But yeah, if you like the 2, if you who's listening, I know Mike, you didn't use her, but wouldn't talk anybody off of using that one either. Let's move on. Second leg of the late pick 5 at Tampa Bay Downs on Saturday, February 11th. Race 8 is the Pelican Stakes for 11 older males going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Pretty much the male version of what we just saw with the last race. Where'd you go on top?
I'm going to go with another horse that's kind of an up-and-comer here. Give me the 7, Uphold the Law on top. 8-1 on the morning line. Michael Stidham, you got Pablo Morales taking them out here. Look, there's a lot of speed in this race. Uphold the Law, I think, can sit off that speed. I like the fact that we've won 3 races without being in the lead in the first call. So you have that outside post that should get a good stalking trip, be able to pounce when you want to pounce, has shown the ability to pass horses before. This is a really, really lightly raced 5-year-old. But when you look at the performances in the backlog there's only 5 of them to look at. Last time out of Fairgrounds at a career high Beyer, 93. If you go back to the end of the 3-year-old season, early 4-year-old season, you've got an 86 and an 89 Beyer in back-to-back races. That really validates that 93 number. Because if you're doing that when you are that age, running a 93 at 5 is not something that's unlikely. You could almost make the argument that if the horse consistently improves, that's what you should expect. Well, now we're getting second off a layoff. I think another step forward is pretty logical here for Uphold the Law, who has tactical ability. So I'm willing to take a price here. I'm going to go with 8-1 on Uphold the Law, the 7 on top.
I did use this horse, and then we both went 3 deep. We agreed on 2 of them. This is one of them, and I love every point that you made. The one loss got stuck inside of a 4-wide pace duel. Not going to happen from here. If it happens, it's going to take a lot of work on the jockey's part just to make that happen with him drawn so far outside. My top pick, the other one we agreed on, the 5 Sibelius at 9-5. Your morning line favorite. Makes perfect sense why. Exits had really nice grade 3 win going 7 furlongs at Gulfstream. Yes, he's cutting back, but unlike with Carmel Swirl, this horse is 2 for 7 with 2 seconds at the distance. So at least has proven that he can handle and win at it. Junior Alvarado rides back aboard for the last 5 races, 3 wins and second by less than a length than the other 2. So all good things. I think a very logical favorite. Did I miss anything that you liked?
Kind of cool horse. I mean, 17 starts, 5 wins. 4 of those have come at different tracks. So 4 separate wins at tracks. Tampa Bay would be the 5th win or 5th track that this horse has won at. It's pretty cool. Yeah, traveling around and getting the job done too. So fires almost every single time. A couple inflated numbers there. You have 2 100-digit Beyers. I wouldn't necessarily say they should be if you look who ran second in those races with Mexican Wonder Boy and Jackson Traveler. But you still got to give him credit for being able to get the job done and get the win. My main concern with Sibelius here is the speed. I mean, it's going to be fast up front. And so it's just whether or not he's going to be able, where Sibelius is going to try and sit here to be able to get the job done. Would like a similar trip to Uphold the Law, where you're just sitting in second or third and able to make that run. It should be pretty well set up here. For me, I used the 3rd horse on here. I used Willie Boy, the 3 horse, who I go back and forth on this horse all the time. There are races on the page to be able to win. And when I look at the last 2, I'm kind of just going to draw a line through them. And I'll explain why. First off, the Breeders' Cup Sprint, way over our head. All right, 35-1. Let's not even worry about that one. The next race was a state-bred 100K race at Tampa, ends up running second, and it's a 7 furlong race. And to me, that 7 furlongs is the key. Willie Boy has run 15 times in his life. 10 of those 15 have been at 6 furlongs. He is 5 for 10 in those 6 furlong races. He's 1 for 5 in everything else. He is a 6 furlong specialist. When he's at 6 furlongs, he is always dangerous. When he stretches out to 7, you're going to see him fade a little bit in that last furlong. That's exactly what we saw last time. So I'm willing to make an excuse for that. And if he runs back to his best races, which he has run at Gulfstream Park, at Tampa Bay Downs, in these Florida circuits, he is right there with everybody else on the page. You're getting 3-1. So I ended up with the 3-5-7 here in the second leg.
Can't fault you for it. I went a little chalky in a different leg. You're taking the top 2 choices here. That was one reason I left Willie Boy off. I did go my 3rd horse just to the inside of him, though. Paco's Pico, 8-1. Rowan Crichton bringing this one over from Gulfstream, where he's been facing optional claimers, but it's not really fair to call them optional claimers because two back it was endorsed, who then went off and won the Hooper Stakes. And then last out, it was Candyman Rocket, who's already a grade 3 stakes winner before he faced him in this spot. Good efforts in both of those. Wasn't the cleanest of trip 2 back, but that was also a 7 furlongs. He's never missed the board at 6 furlongs. He's got 2 wins, 3 seconds, and a third. Not exactly the 6 furlong specialist that Willie Boy is based off of his stats, but I think he's sitting on a great effort here. Tyler Gaffleone is going to ride. He's 2 for 9 for the barn. And I love that I'm getting 8-1 on this horse. I think, especially if you look at who he's been facing, the odds he's been in those races, he hasn't been 8-1 since Rowan Crichton claimed him when he was still a maiden. So I'll use the 2. Did you at least look at the 2 Pacos Pico at all?
I did not, because of this. I believe he raced today, didn't he? At Gulfstream? I could be wrong.
That would change things. I don't think he's winning on Saturday if you're ready on Thursday.
I could be wrong, but I think he raced today. Anyway, I didn't use Pacos Pico just because, like, a wild stat of Rowan Crichton, by the way, 0 for 12 in stakes races over the last 5 years. Has not won a stakes race in the last 5 years. Interesting to see this horse go from Gulfstream here over to Tampa Bay. This actually kind of came up a little more salty than I expected for a 50K. I mean, you've got Gatsby in here. We haven't talked about Willie Boy Sibelius. We mentioned Uphold the Law. You could even talk to No K No on the rail, I think, and I'll explain why I think No K No is a little interesting here too. A lot of different ways to go. I think this is a pretty salty stakes race for this level. So for just 100K here, I was surprised that you saw some of these horses show up. I guess, well, let's talk about this. Like, I mentioned how much speed's in here. If this thing collapses, who do you like? Because if it collapses, it could be a multitude of different horses that are able to get this thing done.
Yeah, the 2 I thought would probably have to sit off a little bit to get the job done. You're right though. It's who do you have? Do you think it's going to be the 1?
I think the 1 is the logical collapse horse. I could make an argument for the 10. I know Doc mentioned him in the chat, so we'll talk about the 10 a little bit here too. But the 1 has enough speed to stay close and has shown the propensity to be able to close at both 5 furlongs on the turf and 6 furlongs on the dirt. You throw out the grade 3 Mr. Prospector, where it just wasn't his day. I mean, he was in the 4 path, then went on the inside of the turn, broke out of the 9 post. Just not a good trip at all. So you kind of draw a line through that one. The races on either side of it fit if this thing falls apart. Those figures are good enough to get the job done, and he'll have the pace to chase. Going to have to work out a trip from the rail, but you get Jose Ortiz aboard, which is definitely an upgrade over who's been riding him. So if I was going to make a case for the collapse, it would be the 1. I could see why people like the 10 as well, Gatsby. Not necessarily as much of a collapse type horse, wants to be a little forwardly placed generally. And when he has one, has been in first or second in every one of those calls, but is at least coming out of some 7 furlong and mile races. 4 of the last 5 have gone that distance. You can make an argument he should be able to close a little bit late. I kind of feel like Willie Boy covers Gatsby, though. I think he's a better version of him, especially at 6 furlongs.
Gatsby, the horse who beat Golden Pal on debut back in COVID times at Gulfstream Park. I'll never forget that every time I see Gatsby pop up. It always makes me think of that. Let's move on. My third leg of the late pick. Oh, yeah, by the way, real quick, Pacos Pico raced about 2 to 3 weeks ago, Mike Ellison said. So he ran recently, just not today. So that would have been a little bit too quick of a turnaround for him. Third leg of the late pick 5 at Tampa Bay Downs on Saturday, February 11th. Race 9, the Suncoast Stakes for 9 3-year-old fillies going a mile and 40 yards on the dirt. Why not a mile and 16th like the Sam F. Davis? I don't know. It's stupid. Kentucky Oaks points on the line. 2 of the top 4 of the 5 contenders in here, Mike. They're big Kentucky Oaks chances right now. Wonder Wheel, Julia Shining. I realize we're going to be taking different paths here because you're going Julia Shining and I'm taking Wonder Wheel. Make your case.
Well, part of it is ticket structure, right? The first 2 legs, I'm using a horse at 7 to 5 on the morning line and 9 to 5 on the morning line. So I'm trying to find who I think is going to be beatable at the price they're going to be at. And that to me is the key here. Look, Wonder Wheel is your most likely winner in this race. However, Wonder Wheel is probably going to go off at 2 to 5, 3 to 5. I wouldn't be shocked if 1 to 5 is on the board for a while during this race because, well, yes, Julia Shining's in here, and I understand you got half sister to mouth, or is it full or half to mouth that? Full, right?
Full sister, yep.
Full sister to mouth that, who we just saw, be a very, very good horse last year. But Wonder Wheel is just coming off a Breeders' Cup win. I mean, she is going to be bet off the board in this spot. And while I agree she's the most likely horse to win, I wouldn't set it at more than like 50 or 60%, right? Like, and let's say she's a 60% chance to win. if you're getting 2 to 5 on her and she's used on 90% of the pick 5 tickets, and you think there's any chance she can lose, this to me is a horse you try and get around. And because of that, I'm not going to use Wonder Wheel, although I do think she's the most likely winner. I think she's getting bet off the board in this spot. I just don't want to have her on my ticket as what I consider an underlay after using 2 favorites in the first 2 races.
I get it, and I know there's a lot of sentimental love for Julia Shining. I know Slim got to see her before the world really ever saw her. He was there at Saratoga to see her on the backside. All great points. To me, Mark Casse just feels very confident about this horse. I was reading an interview with him, and they've already got the next 2 steps mapped out for her. So he said timing-wise, they liked where this fell. And also, if you think, well, why didn't he go to Gulfstream to debut her at a bigger track like that? Gulfstream had a 7 furlong race for a prep. This is clearly a 2-turn horse, and that's where he wants to keep her at. So makes sense to me. I used her. We both agreed on the other horse we're using, and that's the 8, Ticker Tape Home, the other Mark Casse in here. Interesting that we both landed here. She tried 2 turns just once. It was on the turf as a maiden, but that was at Saratoga, where Mark Casse only ever brings his best horses there. Didn't work at Saratoga for her, but as soon as she got back to Woodbine, she's Ontario bred. Beat Ontario breds by almost 10 lengths, going 7 furlongs on the turf, and then almost beat the boys in the 7 furlong display stakes on the synthetic. I thought both of those great efforts, and I love that Gallardo's going to ride her because I got a feeling she's got to be forwardly placed. She might try and take this gate to wire, Mike.
Definitely going to be forwardly placed. I think you also have to go back and watch that Saratoga race, the turf race that you mentioned. The only time she's gone 2 turns. Be Your Best wins that race. Free Look runs 3rd. Both good horses. The trip was awful for Ticker Tape Home. If you go back and watch that, and note that she was also bet down in that race. She went off at $3.45 to 1. It's about 7-2 in a race with 2 very, very good turf horses for her second career start. For Casse shipping in, Saratoga's not a place that usually gets bet hard. So clearly there's a lot of people that thought there was some talent here, and she was 3rd or 4th path around the first turn, 3rd or 4th path around the second turn. And you know what you could not do at Saratoga on that turf? Be in the 3rd or 4th path on both turns. You had 0 chance of winning if that happened. On top of that, she was bumped at the break. Like everything that could go wrong for Ticker Tape Home went wrong on that day. You got Mark Casse, who has Wonder Wheel in here. We mentioned, last race, the goal isn't to have the first race. The goal is Vermont isn't a 50K stakes. The goal for Wonder Wheel here is not to win this race. The goal is to get ready for the Oaks, which she is already going to be in. She's going to run in that race. It's just get her and move her along. The fact that you have Ticker Tape Home show up for Casse here makes the horse wildly interesting when you have Wonder Wheel in the same race. Now, if Ticker Tape Home scratches, I may have to reevaluate this. I may end up singling Wonder Wheel because if you take out that horse, all of a sudden the arguments against Wonder Wheel aren't as strong, in my opinion, because the fact that the trainer of a heavy favorite has a second means that horse to me is usually a little weaker than the public is necessarily going to think. So I'm going to put Ticker Tape Home on top here. I think you're going to see a really nice effort. And look at the sales price too. It's a $625,000 daughter of Maglia d'Oro out of a war front mare. Wonderfully bred for 2 turns. Should have no issues with the dirt. So I'm not concerned about the surface switch. And I mentioned this in the pre-show too when we were talking with Aaron as well. Reminds me a little Soup and Sandwich when he came down here from Woodbine and was able to get the win in a Tampa Bay prep. So Casse can do this with horses. I don't think 2 turns is an issue considering the breeding. I like the dirt breeding as well. I think Ticker Tape Home at 8-1 is really interesting here.
Outside of these 2, what about the Chad Brown horse? I know she's stepping up from breaking her maiden last time out, but he's getting Hector Diaz Jr. They're very strong at Tampa Bay Downs together. The 6, Guns and Graces. Any love for her at all?
Not really. I mean, it would be a monster step forward, right? Look, I realize he's sold for a bunch of money. You mentioned daughter gun runner, has some early speed, but it feels like if Chad Brown thought this horse was all that in a bag of chips, you'd have someone besides Diaz riding him here. It just seems like this is kind of a backup jockey for Chad Brown. We'll talk about that in the last race in a second here too. So I kind of shied away from him. I would be pretty surprised if he pulled the upset here with Guns and Roses or Guns and Graces. Sure, it's possible, but you're probably not going to see Chad Brown. Well, Soup and Sandwich won at Tampa, so it's a fit if I'm making my argument that the 8's guy shot here. So I don't think you're going to see Chad Brown in the winner's circle here. I am going to use the 9 Julia Shining, and I get the reasons not to. You think she's going to be overbet. I actually think the 1's going to give her some value here. I think she's going to go off around 3-1 as your second choice in this spot. There's clearly talent there. She's a little bit of a grinder, which is probably my biggest concern, is that she's going to have to run into this pace and she's going to come from the back a little bit. But I thought she looked really good at both 7 furlongs and a mile and an eighth. She kind of kicked it into gear. Saez is making the trip, knows her well. I'm going to give her a chance here. And again, I'm trying to get around Wonder Wheel. And because of that, I'm going to go to the 2 other horses that I think are most likely to win. And to me, that's Ticker Tape Home and Julia Shining.
I'm a little worried just with a combination of the post and the fact that she very much is a grinder, Julia Shining. Doesn't have a turn of foot that makes you just go, wow, that was great. She's very much a grinder. I'm a little worried if she gets behind at the start. It might be too much for her to do in this spot, but respect the hell out of her. Was very excited when she won her debut at Keeneland and then went to Aqueduct and won the Demoiselle. Looking a lot like older sister Malathat. Not a bad comparison to make there. Let's move on, Mike. The penultimate leg of the late pick 5 at Tampa Bay Downs on Saturday, February 11th. Race 10, the Grade 3 Sam F. Davis Stakes. 12 3-year-old males going a mile and 16th on the dirt. Kentucky Derby points on the line. No Eclipse champions, unlike the last race, but you've got Pletcher in here. You've got Cassie, Mott, Safi, Maker, Gargan, all sorts of big-name trainers showing up. Where'd you go on top?
I got a little kooky in here. I'm going to go with the 6-horse Classic Car Wash on top. 20-1 on the morning line. Mark Cassie. We got Jaramillo who's picking up the mount here. I've talked a lot about how hard it is to go gate to wire on the synthetic. That's exactly what Classic Car Wash did last time, going a mile and 70 yards. And if you look at the time too, I mean, the internal fractions are really good for that synthetic course. They go 49 to the half, not that fast. 1:12.3, ran sub 24-second internal fraction there in the third quarter of the race. Came home in 1:39 and change. That's a very good time for that synthetic course, especially for that level. Now we're taking a big shot here, shipping over. Noble Bird stands for $3,000. This horse sold for $105,000 to Gary Barber. You talked a lot about Gary Barber, how he positions horses very well. It's interesting that they're taking a shot with this horse here. I think Classic Car Wash has a legit gate-to-wire chance in this field. There's some other speed in here that I'm a little concerned about, specifically the 8, who I think could cause some issues up front, and the 10, Dreaming of Kona as well. But I'm hoping that the 6 can either sit on the lead or right behind it and make a big-time move. Has won on the dirt before, so I don't have to worry about that. Has won at 2 turns, so I don't have to worry about that. It needs to take a step forward in a big way, but we're getting 20-1 on the horse. So I'm willing to take a shot when we're getting that kind of price.
Classic Car Wash scratched out of the Gulfstream Park allowance that began the late pick 5 last Saturday, the one that went to Tappet Trice, when you and I both famously singled the wrong Pletcher. Oh, well, it happens from time to time. Interesting that they scratched out from there, showed up here. Maybe class relief, depending on what we see happen here, because Tappet Trice looked pretty damn good in that race. Chris Mayello agreeing on the 6. I went too deep here. We agreed on my top pick, and that's the favorite, number 7, WNL at 9-5. If this horse is ready off the layoff, I think he's definitely good enough to do it. Winner of the Remsen Stakes last December in Aqueduct in the slop. Did have the more favorable part of the track than Arctic Arrogance, but Arctic Arrogance came back to run well in the Jerome Stakes, got second, and then now is going to be in the Withers Stakes on Saturday. So you actually might, I think you'll get a chance to see Arctic Arrogance before WNL, so you can kind of play off of that. But he's the main target for him is the Wood, but they're down here in Florida because this is where Gargan's based. It's a $400,000 son of Good Magic, who's 22% dirt route sire. It's pretty damn good. You know what? I think this horse, he makes sense. It's hard to make a case against him. His debut, he lost to Instant Coffee, who is, you know, multiple stakes winner, top 5 Derby candidate right now, right? Arthur's Ride was second. He's finally coming back. We haven't seen him since then, but a very highly hyped Bill Mott horse we'll see at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. So check him out as well. But good horses, and then he wins 2 straight.
Yeah, the one knock would be the buyer. I mean, I'm not sure we should have gotten an 890 in the Remsen, and that's going to get this horse bet off the board. But I agree with you. I think you have to use WHNL here. It makes a ton of sense in the spot. Clearly the best horse going into it. It's whether or not he'll be able to kind of, if he runs back to that Remsen, if he runs back to a 90 buyer, I should say, he wins this race going away, right? So the question of whether or not anyone can improve. I use the 11 Litigate here as well. Kind of lukewarm use here, 5-1 Pletcher Saez makes sense in that front. Lost to Cyclone Mischief and that allowance that we talked about last weekend when we both kind of bashed Cyclone Mischief. Cyclomischief just ran off the screen that day. I didn't think that was validated. It felt like he was going to bounce off. It was the only time he's run with Lasix. That's exactly what happened. Neither of us used him in that race. Both of us got our boy home there on the outside. This is a little bit better spot in my mind. I mean, that was a one-turn mile. I think Litigate is going to like every bit of this two-turn mile. You've got some tactical speed, but also some closing kick. I like that. We've been able to pass horses in both of our starts. I like that. And I like the fact that Pletcher said, all right, we're still going here. That the plan did not change when he runs second in that allowance versus saying, okay, we need to go back in and run another allowance. No, we're going to go right for Derby points off that. I think this horse wants the two turns when you go back and you watch that race. And I think that's what we're going to get today. A little concerned about the 11 post, but I trust the connections on this horse more than anyone else.
I didn't use him. The post was concerning. I'm not a huge fan of this horse. You look at who he was facing back in Aqueduct when he broke his maiden. Index Fun hasn't run back since then. Clubhouse needed 2 more starts to break his maiden. 4th place was actually Slip Mahoney, who just broke his maiden not that long ago at the end of January at Aqueduct and got an 87 buyer. Missed beating Tapit Trice by a neck. But overall, he's the one good horse that's come out of there. The other ones haven't looked too solid. I can't forgive him for – I mean, I know Cyclomischief freaked like that, but I also wasn't super impressed with Litigate. He was only a nose ahead of Mr. Ripple there. Mr. Ripple, I don't know if he rebroke or Litigate, to me, I think just kind of fell off in the stretch. But he is, with the breeding he has, you would think 2 turns is where he needs to go. So I won't knock you for that. I'm too deep here. My other horse, I'm going with a local boy. I've known about him since he broke his maiden because I posted the replay on our YouTube channel. Prairie Hawk, number 2 for Saffy Joseph Jr. Saffy 4 for 10 at the meet with a second and a third as well. Saffy's doing fantastic. I talked about on Dude Bet Sports or Dude Bet Daily earlier today. He's 44% since the Pegasus day. From that Sunday onward, he's clicking at 44%. He's doing pretty good. Sammy Camacho, the top rider in Tampa, keeps the mount here. He's proven it 2 turns twice on this track, which can be quite quirky. I know he only beat 3 horses last out. 2 of them were Pletchers that were pretty, at the time, highly hyped and kind of fell flat. The debut only beat 4 horses, but if he gets to the front going into that first turn, it doesn't matter how many horses behind him, he's going to keep him back there.
Yeah, if I used anyone out of that race, I actually would have used the 5 Grooveland. If you go back and watch the replay, I mean, Prairie Hawk got everything his own way up front, went a 50 half. Grooveland kind of broke out, was in the 4 path early in the race, was 2 wide, 3 wide in the first turn, and ran up, got to the throat latch, just couldn't go by. With more pace in here and a better break from Grooveland, I think it kind of sets up a little better for Grooveland. However, Prairie Hawk 2 back did not need the lead and was able to win, which I do think is important. The fact that he was able to come from just off it and get the job done. So if you're looking for a local horse, to me, it's the 2 or the 5. I agree with you that the 2 is definitely a player here if WH&L doesn't show up with the best effort. I just don't generally like to take local horses at Tampa. I like to take the ones that are usually shipping in, and so that's what I lean towards.
You had one. You went 3 deep here, right? Scroll down to get to the last. Oh wait, no, we did talk about Litigate, the 11 there. Notice an interesting one, the 8 horse here, because he is also entered in an allowance race at Tampa on Sunday, where would be facing. We just talked about him, the Pletcher horse, Kingsbarns. He would be facing Kingsbarns and Cuvier in that race. So we'll see if he runs here or if he goes there instead. But let's talk about the 9 Champions Dream real quick. A horse that won the Grade 3 Nashua to get Kentucky Derby points back last November. Second in the Pasco, that was 1 turn 7 furlongs. Mark Cassidy seems to think that the 2 turns will help him out here, but neither of us touched the 9.
I considered it. I thought the horse ran pretty well last time. That was, it was interesting because that's first time out here as a 3-year-old. The horse sold for a bunch of money. Justified Tapit, very well bred. Gets to drop a couple pounds, but also is dropping Lasix. The fact we ran our career best number on Lasix is a little bit of a concern here. Should get a pretty good setup. Should be able to stalk the pace. Hasn't gone 2 turns yet, but has gone a 1-turn mile, including winning the Grade 3 Nashua 2 back. So I respect the 9. I had the 9 as my 4th horse here if I did go 4 deep. I do think there are 2 interesting horses we should talk a little bit about here. The 1 Worthington and the 3 Classic Legacy. Did you look at either of these horses? Worthington obviously bringing up a bunch in the chat here, specifically because this has been a turf horse. It's been a pretty good turf horse who now pops up here in a kind of one of those stakes races or a Derby points race. And we talk about sometimes ownership groups get a little Derby fever. Do you think that's what's happening, or do you think Worthington can handle the dirt?
who was that Uncle Mo horse that Victor Martinez owned that Juan Avila trained a couple years ago? Did this at Tampa. It was like a turf horse, and it came over and was like 49-1. I think won the Tampa Bay Derby. Somebody in the chat, I can't think of it right now.
Oh, that pissed me off. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, somebody will get it real soon. Listen, I did think about it. I know that Aaron Haltman did the preview for this at youtube.com/racing dudes, and he thought that Worthington was definitely an interesting price play here. The big question is, can he handle the dirt? The breeding says yes. The Dam Sire is a Kentucky Derby winner. Classic Empire was, I think, favored in his Kentucky Derby year. Was a 2-year-old champion on dirt. So it could be. I don't know if I see it happening, but there's a lot worse long shots you could pick in this race.
Yeah, the trip is going to be interesting. I think you probably have to go from the one post, right? I don't think you can really try and sit. So can Worthington take this field gate to wire? Maybe. Again, if it's King Guillermo, yeah, it's a couple people in the chat nailed it there. If WHNL isn't all that, I could see Worthington being a player here. I'm surprised we're showing up here, but if you're going to show up in a Derby prep and taking a swing, isn't this a pretty good one to show up into and take a swing? Like, it's not a world beater of a field. There's a reason I'm going Classic Car Wash on top at 20-1. I think this is a beatable field. So if you wanted to use the one Worthington, I wouldn't hold it against you. I expect either he's going to run well or we're never going to see him on dirt again. It's going to be one of those two things. If he runs well, then we'll see what happens. But if not, this was clearly a Derby fever experiment. We'll move along. I want to bring up the 3 Classic Legacy because we've talked about Bill Mott the last couple of weeks and how he has been absolutely on fire. Ran 1-2 in the stakes race we talked about last week in Florida. And the second place horse, who was 20-1, we talked about on the show because it made no sense why that horse was here. It makes no sense why the 3 horses in this race either. So if you're kind of on the, hey, Bill Mott's on one right now, he's on an absolute, like, it's been basically a year-long heater in these type of stakes races. You're getting 12-1 on a horse that doesn't necessarily fit on paper, but Bill Mott thinks this horse fits in this race. The difference last week is that obviously Rocket Can was the favorite in the race. He still put a second horse in. One of the reasons we used him. This time we don't have Bill Mott on the favorite, but we still have an interesting Bill Mott horse here coming off the layoff and jumping right into a stakes prep or Derby.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. A couple notes about him. Not only is it the winning jockey trainer combination in Mott and Junior Alvarado from the Rocket Can and Holy Bull, also jockey trainer that won the Pegasus World Cup with this owner Bruce Lunsford, who bred the horse. And by the way, Classic Legacy, I have to art collector who won the Pegasus. So a horse with a lot of beautiful pedigree, great connections here. But boy, that race 2 back at Aqueduct when he was second at the time, it looked really great. It's like, oh, Rudder's Men looks like a great Pletcher horse that won on debut, and boy, he just beat Classic Catch, and they both broke their maidens next out. And you know what Classic Catch did after that? He ran 3rd to Prairie Hawk in the 4-horse race. Like, that didn't go so well for him. Classic Catch was one of those highly hyped Pletcher horses that just completely tanked in that spot. He's interesting. Slow time for that Aqueduct maiden break as well. But I'm not going to sit here and bash anybody that wants to use Bill Mott and Junior Alvarado right now. I mean, A, they're hot. B, they're nice guys.
We got King of Kona, the 10 horse, getting some love in the chat as well. Last time out was the Mucho Macho Man. Ended up getting placed first after a disqualification on Legacy Isle, who we saw come back and run last weekend. Could be a controlling speed. It has the highest time form number in the field at 114. Do you think Dreaming of Kona makes the lead? Any shot for the 10 going gate to wire here?
I don't think the horse gets the lead, and I definitely don't think even if he did, I don't think he goes gate to wire. There's a lot of speed, a lot of stretch out speed. He's never tried 2 turns, so he's going to be part of that. But Legacy Isle, first of all, Legacy Isle was the better horse than Mucho Macho Man anyways. He wasn't going to lose that. The DQ I thought was a little questionable. Legacy Isle is still trying to finish the Holy Bull. He was a little over 7 lengths behind Rocket. He was 4th. He was 7 lengths behind Rocket Cannon 4th there. So I didn't like that. You did have General Jim come out of that race. He finished 4th and then went to the Grade 3 Swale on the undercard last week and won, got a 90 buyer, but not one that I considered. No, if this was a lighter race, if it had come out how usually Tampa gets it, maybe I'd say he's got a shot here at a price. But the way this one turned up, I just think there's too many better horses.
I love the chat. Dr. Tang, the Spleeth combo has been heating up lately. Next comment. I can't take Spleeth. You got to love the back and forth there. Interesting you do have the Spleeth combo on here on the 10 horse. Yeah, this one wasn't for me. I'd rather take the 1, the 3, or the 6 as prices versus the 10, Dreaming of Kona. But again, 12-1 in a race like this, which it's wide open if WHNL doesn't fire. Hey, why not?
Heating up for the Spieth combo is apparently 9% at Tampa. That's heating up for him. So good. If that's heating up, I'd hate to see what ice cold looks like. Let's move on, Mike. Fifth and final leg of the late pick 5. And here we go. The only non-stakes race. We've got 11, and also the only turf race here. 12 maiden 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a 16th in race 11. You've got a pair from debuting from Chad Brown. You've also got one debuting from Christophe Clement, who could be interesting. Where'd you go on top?
First, before we do that, kind of interesting stat here. I was parsing through some of the first-time starter stats because we have some European first-time starter sires, Wooten Asset for the 5-horse and Kingman for the 3-horse. Both of them are terrible with 2-year-old first-time starters and phenomenal with 3-year-old and up first-time starters. I thought that was kind of interesting with the European bloodlines where you have the 3-year-old and up first-time starters doing significantly better, meaning they take a little more time to develop versus the 2-year-olds. Well, here we have 2 3-year-old first-time starters for barns that can get them ready and win when they send first-time starters down to Tampa Bay. I put the 5-horse financial advice on top here. Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz, connections are solid. Kalleward Stables here. Wooten Bassett, the trainer, or the sire on the 5, I think it was 22% when I looked with first-time starters, 3-year-olds and up. I'll double-check that stat when you're talking about yours. To me, the 3-horse was the other must-use in this spot. Liked Carilla as well. Christophe Clement, you've got Gaffleone aboard. Kingman, the workouts are good. Both of these trainers are good debuting at over a mile, something we talk about a lot where trainers struggle with that. Both of these combos, Clement and Gaffleone, 20%, or Jose and Chad Brown, 30% together. So the connections fit for both these horses. And let's just be honest. Most of the horses who've started suck. I'm not really interested in many of them. So I feel like the 3 and the 5 and the 10 are going to be pretty tough here. I used all 3 of the first-time starters for the logical barns.
You were close. You had the right numbers. You switched them. Wooten Bassett, 30% with first-time starters 3 and up. Kingman, 22% 3 and up. Still very strong, well above average. And Kingman, a 24% turf route sire. Cirillo is my top pick. I flipped them. But Cirillo is a full sister to a turf route stakes winner in Europe. It's a half to 2 more turf route stakes winners. One of them is by Invincible Spirit, who sired Kingman. The other one is like a brother to Kingman, also by the same grandsire there. So they're all from the same family is what I'm getting at. And they're all turf stakes winners. And Cirillo looks like she could very well be on her way to the 4th one. Clement, 20% with T-Gaff, 16% doing a mile. You talked about how good those stats are. I went with both of those. Next up for me, I went a little kooky looking for a long shot. I'm going to go with the 7 in the know. And it's a good thing I'm getting 30-1 because all these stats I have, the last one's not going to be very good. But here we go. Trainers stats. Second start maidens, 32%. First time turf, 31%. Dirt to turf, 32%. First time blinkers, 27%. First time Lasix, 29%. And with jockey Daniel Santino, 37%. What all brings it crashing down to earth, Mike?
Yeah,
Union
now
rags,
you have
5%.
You have to make fun of yourself because anytime I use a Union Rags on turf, you give me shit for it. And now you are using a Union Rags on turf. Talk about
30-1. At 30-1. And the trainer stats, I'm hoping that every single one of those good stats makes up for that very bad one. Because, yeah, that Union Rags is what scares you. But one older sibling to win, won at 7 furlongs on synth, a mile on synth, a mile and a 16th on turf. So was handling something that wasn't dirt and was able to handle going 2 turns. Too slow to handle dirt routing on debut, but interesting that Delacour wanted to debut routing. Winner of that race is in the Suncoast Stakes. We didn't. It's the Chad Brown horse that we talked about briefly. Kind of watch what happens with that horse to see how you feel, if you feel any better about the 7 here. But I went looking for a long shot. I think I've got at 30-1. I'm getting a good price on a 5% Union Rags horse.
Well, I'm checking real quick. So synthetic, we're 7% and 9% at least. So a little better on synthetic than turf, but. Yeah, no, I'm hard passing in any Union Rags. You can beat me. It's even at 30-1. I will see what happens here. I doubt you get 30-1 in this spot. I think the horse actually gets bet a little bit. But yeah, no thanks on the Union Rags. I'm not going to try and make a case for that one. I did like the 10 Lovers rock a little bit here. Chad Brown, Hector Diaz jumps aboard, 36% at the meet, kind of the backup rider or the go-to rider when no one's in town for Chad Brown here. It's a homebred for Peter Brandt. Makes a ton of, well, a private purchase, I should say, for Peter Brandt. Makes a ton of sense. 3-year-old filly debuting. We know that Chad Brown can get these horses ready. Know he can debut over a mile. And the fact that he's got 2 in here, I'm going short enough in other spots. This ticket's going to be $64. I don't want to get bounced by a Chad Brown firster. Did you use the 10 as well?
I didn't, and it's because of the post. The posts 9 through 12 at Tampa going this distance are 2 for 47. They won one from post 9 and one from post 10. I did not like those stats going this distance. I will say if they're two for 47.
Yeah, what percentage is that?
I don't 2%.
No, it's like 4.6%, right around Union Rag's percentage of winning sires winning on turf or kids winning on turf.
Did not see you going that way with it. There's a lot of things to like about it. There's one older sibling to race. I made 5 starts, actually all for Chad Brown, all turf routes, 2 wins in a second. Was second on debut, interesting enough, at Tampa Bay Downs, and then won next out. Hector Diaz Jr., 36% with Chad Brown. You were right, actually. This is a homebred for Peter Brandt. White Birch Farm is his breeding operation. Both Chad Browns are homebreds in here. The other one being by Kalleward Stable. That's his bread and butter owner. That's that's his top one that he tries to win for. So if there are any scratches, especially if the 5 gets scratched, I'll definitely add the 10 in here on top. But for me, it was the post. They come out of that chute. You're going to be from the 10 post, trying to swing way over, and then you don't have that much of a stretch run before you're turning again. I'm just worried about this horse getting too far back and or too wide.
It's fair enough. All right, so we kind of talked about the 3 first-time stars in here. You've got a plethora of interesting horses as well. I mean, I could make a case for a couple of them in here. You've got, let's see, how many? It's 2 from the Dutro barn. You've got a Shug horse in here. You've got a Grand Motion in here. When you got past the first-time stars, who'd you look at first, Magic?
For me, I talked about this 7. I like the 6 as well, and I think we both. No, you didn't use the 6. I'm looking at a different thing here. I like the 6 here. Juniper's Moon at 5-1. Debuted routing on turf at Aqueduct. A great point in here from in the chat. Where is it? Where did it go? Oh, dude, I just missed it. Oh, Dennis. You got a Galileo that they paid $725,000 for. Ran second first time out on turf. Switched to dirt. Didn't go so well. Got beat by 38 lengths. Comes back here. You're getting Camacho to ride. Sammy Camacho wins 39% of his mounts for Chad Brown. Chad Brown's got 2 horses in here. He's not on either one of them. He's on this horse for this barn instead. There seems like there's really high expectations. It kind of sucks that they had to come down to Tampa with her. They thought she was probably a bit better than that, but definitely I think is going to be a class drop for her as well.
Do you remember Idea Generation?
I do not.
The horse that beat Jupiter's Moon in that debut. So do you remember the race where the tractor failed at Saratoga and they canceled the race?
Yeah.
Idea Generation was the favorite in that race. Ended up running second. Didn't run that well in that spot. She should have won, but she couldn't get by the first horse. Went to a stakes race, lost to Be Your Best second time out, and then broke her maiden a short price. She's a daughter of Kingman, See the Stars, one of the two. Let's see here. DeBowie, that was it. $338,000 standing DeBowie. I think she sucks. And that's why I'm not using this pick. I don't think she's that good. And because of that, I'm leaving off Juniper's Moon, who ran second to her in that race. That really is the reason you'd use Juniper's Moon, right? Like you're pointing back to that turf race and saying, okay, Idea Generation, Chad Brown horse, really well bred, probably pretty good, ran in a stakes race. Well, I just don't think that she's that good. And so that's why I left the 6th Juniper Moon off. I did include one more in here. I think the interesting horse is on the rail, Little Miss Moonlight. I'm kind of bucking a couple stats here. Timothy Ham first turf, 3%, right? 1 for 32. That's not great. Switching from dirt to turf, 4%, 1 for 24 as well. However, I would like to say this horse was never supposed to be on dirt. They actually entered Little Miss Moonlight for the turf. So this is not one of your traditional, oh, the horse was running on turf, now we're switching to dirt, or running on dirt, now we're switching to turf. The plan was always to be on turf. I think Little Miss Moonlight has a little bit of speed from that rail. I think you're going to see her very forwardly placed. I wanted to use someone who had run before versus just the 3 first-time starters. And at 10-1, I think she's really interesting on the rail. A horse that is bred to like the turf, should be able to take a step forward second start. Timothy Ham, 16%, second-time start, 14% first-time Lasix, 18% routes. So when you get outside of those stats that he sucks at, that I'm going to make an excuse for, all the other stats fit here at 10-1.
It's like my Union Rags, the number 7 horse there.
Yeah, but this isn't a real dirt to turf horse. This horse was supposed to be on turf. This should be turf to turf, but it's dirt to turf because of the weather, not because of the trainer's decision-making process.
Hey, we're both taking shots. It's okay. City of Light, not a super sire when it comes to turf routing, just 12%. But he is pretty strong in general. Interestingly enough, City of Light, I'm just seeing this now, 0 for 19 dirt routes. That's a little odd.
So you're telling me running second in a dirt route is a huge, huge effort first time out for a City of Light horse.
Yeah, 7 of the 19 starters dirt route, including this one, got second. That's interesting. I did consider briefly, because like you said, you look to see, they tried putting it on turf, gonna switch it. It had to be on dirt and now back on turf, hopefully this time. I didn't use, but yeah, you're getting 10-1, and hopefully you can buck that trend, like I'm hoping to buck the Union Rags trend.
Yeah, there we go. The 2 Sea Witch was also out of that same race, ended up running 4th. Did make the lead. You get size aboard. I think that horse was a little bit interesting as well if you're looking for a price. Did not include that one on my ticket, but did think it was at least a little interesting. And then the 12 is the other one I thought we should talk about here. Grand Motion. This is going to be the second time at Tampa. This horse debuted at Aqueduct, then ran at Aqueduct. Faced some pretty good horses in both times. I hate the post here, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the 12, the girl from Ireland, wins.
I'd be shocked because of the post. I'd expect her to run well. Boy, look at how she's drawn. Her career debut was 7th of 10. That's not too bad. And then 11th of 11 at Aqueduct. Then 9th of 9 at Tampa. Again, post 9 through 12, 2 for 47 combined. Just not being helped out with the draws. If she actually was to draw it like from 5 post inward, run to the window with your money in your hand. I think she's going to finally win that one, Mike.
And you actually bring up a great point. That might be a good horse to stable up here if she runs well at all, just to see, and specifically in the notes, you can do this on Equibase, outside draws, right? Just put that in the notes. And then when she enters back in, if she gets a inside draw, you might be able to get an overlay price on her if she is running well.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to talk about Tampa Bay Downs, the first of possibly 2 times we'll ever come here this year for the previews. But thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to the podcast, we'll go through our tickets one last time for you. Take a look down below if you're watching on screen. I've got 158 with 257 with 18 with 27 3567. That's a $72 ticket, Mr. Somich.
I'm going to play a $64 ticket. I'm going to go 15 with 357 with 89 with 6 7-11 with 1 3 5 10. Costs you $64 for 50 cents.
If you are playing, let us know in the comments in the chat what your tickets look like. Always love to hear from you. And of course, follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb 18, number 8. Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes, but you knew that. Mike, let's talk a little bit of Super Bowl real quick before we get out of here. This will be our only time on this show doing it. Of course, you should check out Dudes Who Bet Daily. We're going to be coming to you Friday, Saturday, and Super Bowl Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. By the way, how do you like doing that at 9 instead of noon? A little different.
I'm pretty tired right now. I'm not going to lie. It's 3 o'clock here, and I am not wide awake anymore. So I'm going to have to get into the swing of things. The workday now starts at 7 a.m., which is, if you know me, I'm not a morning person. I am very much like to stay up very late and then wake up very late. So we're going to have to try to flip the script here a little bit, moving to the West Coast. But like I said, I do love the way the sports are handled out here, because you know what? I'm going to a Super Bowl party at a Sharky's, and it starts at 2:30. Pretty excited about it. We got a babysitter, man. Gonna have a little fun on Sunday.
Nice. Sharky's Woodfire Mexican Grill. Very good place to go watch some live sports. Oh shit, what was I gonna say? Oh, the fact about you not being a morning person, that isn't true if it's the Sunday after Breeders' Cup weekend and you've got a poker game waiting for you. I've seen you get up and get going very quickly when that's on the line. This year I was feeling it the Sunday after Breeders' Cup. I was feeling a little rough when I got into the car. I don't know what time it was. I left things behind. I was a mess this year after that Sunday, but it was a lot of fun. We had a blast there. So yeah, Super Bowl Sunday here. We got Chiefs. We've got Eagles. The line is now Eagles -2. So full disclosure, I've got a large amount of the Chiefs because of a future wager. So I have not bet the Chiefs. I have bet the Eagles, but I did that as a hedge, not because I actually like the Eagles. If I was going to bet this game from the beginning, so if I had $0 riding on futures, give me the Chiefs plus the 2. I still can't make Mahomes a dog here. I actually have more injury concerns about Jalen Hurts than anyone else in this game. If you look at his average depth of target, if you look at his percentage above completion expected, both of them have regressed in the last 2 games back to what you saw last year from Jalen Hurts when he was in this stretch.
I think that shoulder's bothering him a lot more than he's letting on. If you go back and you watch the fourth quarter of that Niners game, first off, you're a sick individual like me. No one should really have to do that. But if you watch the Eagles' offensive possessions, every time he gets hit, he is grimacing, wincing. He for some reason was running the ball, got an 11-yard gain, got hammered on his shoulder, and came up clearly in pain. He's not accurate with the deep throws. I'm against Jalen Hurts in this spot, and that's what is leading me more toward the Chiefs than anything else. Obvious concerns about the wide receivers. But I'm still going to lay it with the Chiefs. And I kind of like the under because if I have injury issues here in the Chiefs wide receivers, and I think Jalen Hurts is busted up, I think the under is probably more in play as well. I also like Gainwell over rushing yards, 19.5. I gave out Sanders at 51.5 on VSiN last Thursday. That's no longer available. It's now like 62.5, something like that last I saw. So I don't want to bet Sanders at 62.5. The better number there was 50.5. I've seen so many people loving Kelsey. It's ridiculous. The world is on Kelsey right now. So I'm going to stay away from him. And the one thing I would say here too, one of the biggest mistakes people make in the Super Bowl is correlating their prop bets when they could just do something smarter with their money. So people will bet over Mahomes yards, over Mahomes 2.5 touchdowns, over Kelsey yards, over Kelsey receptions, Kelsey anytime touchdown. All of that is generally going to be at a bad juiced number. So minus 115, minus 120, minus 125. You know what's minus 110? Chiefs team total over. You know what? If Kelsey scores, Mahomes throws for 2.5 touchdowns, both go over their numbers, the Chiefs are probably going over their team total, and you're getting a better price on it. So just be careful with correlating all of your prop bets here.
Some stats that I found interesting. First of all, I told Papa Dude and Aaron this off air, but did you know that whoever wins the Super Bowl will officially have more wins in that stadium than the team whose home stadium it is? The Cardinals went 1-8 this year at home, losing to both the Chiefs and the Eagles. I was like, so I started looking. I couldn't find any record of that ever being the case in history. And they've had it in the Super Bowl in Detroit twice. Neither time was that the case that year. Pretty wild stat.
The Gatorade pick. I got to try and remember here. I'm going to pull up what the odds are right now just so I
5-2 on orange was my bet. I saw that.
So the Chiefs are an orange team, I think it is. And the Eagles are lime, I believe it was. One team is lemon lime, one team is orange. That's what they've consistently had. I'd be surprised if that changes. So those would be the two possible colors that you want to bet. I think lemon lime, like it's yellow/green, got steamed down too from like 8-1 open to like the second choice of 3-1, something like that. So those are the colors that they have traditionally used. Now, obviously, you can see some change for the Super Bowl, but those are the traditional colors that these two teams have used in the past. And it's disgusting to know that. It's how far gambling has come. That the colors of the Gatorade that the teams have on the sideline.
I like the under for the national anthem. It'll feel like it'll go way over just because it's a country singer, but I will take the under on that. By the way, the under in the last 19 Super Bowls, it's actually been 11 unders and 8 overs. So the public, I think, here is going to see two teams with high offensive potential. And no, you never see them score, especially not much in the first quarter, first half. Everybody's trying to feel each other out. So I think the under is the way to go. The last 19 years, too, the public bet the over 15 times, made the over the favorite. They went 6-9. So the public's betting the over here again. Don't trust the public on that. And if you, last note from me, if you like the Chiefs at +2 or +1, plus whatever, if you think they win, don't bet them to cover. Bet them to win straight up. The straight up winner of the last 21 Super Bowls that had a spread of 4 or fewer, the straight up winner covered every single time. So if you think the Chiefs are going to cover at +2, +3, whatever, take them to win. That's my advice on that one. By the way, Patrick Mahomes, 7-1-1 against the spread in his career as an underdog. Do you want to take Patrick Mahomes as an underdog? I kind of do after hearing that.
We saw how pumped up that Chiefs team got to for the whole Burrowhead thing. If you think they're not talking about being a dog in this game and how fast they went from the favorite to the dog and using that as a rallying point, you're crazy. I mean, they're gonna be pumped up. One other bet I like: over 2.5 players to throw a pass in the Super Bowl. It's currently, I thought, anywhere from -110 to +105. Here's the reason. First off, 2 franchises and coaches that are both creative. You could see a trick play pass. You could see Kelsey throw one. We could see multiple Eagles throw one. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see a pass scheduled. However, we also have 2 quarterbacks who are injured in this game going into it. If one of them takes a hit, Henny and Minshew are both respectable backup quarterbacks they will allow to throw.
I forgot it's Minshew.
It's Minshew. We could have some Minshew magic in the Super Bowl. Everyone's NFL is script. The NFL is script. Gardner Minshew is going to be your Super Bowl MVP. That's the way to go if you're going to script this sucker. I wouldn't be shocked if you see one of these two quarterbacks miss a series in this spot. Both are injured heading into the like you also have coaches that like to run trick plays. I think the over 2.5 is a pretty easy bet here.
We'll have more Super Bowl bets. I like that one too. That's a great stat. If you want more stats and more coverage for the Super Bowl, check out Dudes Who Bet Sports. Aaron and Papa Dude gave out all of their prop bets. That was live just before us. So youtube.com/racingdudes or at racingdudes.com or wherever you get your podcast, you can make sure you get that as well. Thanks again for joining, Mike. If you stuck around for the Super Bowl talk, good luck to you. We will be back with a live show Saturday covering the Wither Stakes, the Sam F. Davis Stakes, probably the Suncoast as well. It'd be a good time. Until Monday when Mike and I are back for our, by the way, have a Derby top pick when we come back Monday, Mike. I'm going to warn you now. Until Monday, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike. We'll be live Saturday, too.
Good. That's what I said.
Oh, I was paying attention to my football.
You're paying attention to the balls in your hand. I understand. We'll see you next time.
Singular.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by racingdudes.com.